Hello, BIC podcast episode number 55. You will not see it, but new countdown timer to be seen soon at a live stream near you. But in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the first round of the playoffs coming up in the NFL. We're still wacko for Flacco, but there's going to be some additional things to talk about. We're going to have a little bit of fun around the horn and then also talk a little bit about the brokenness of the current system. Just give some observations, just a little bit, the beginning of a conversation. So the start of it, because there's a lot of directions we can take into it. So we'll have some fun doing into that and probably touch on some more down the road as we add more details and more layers into it. We'll bring some more people in the conversation, but we'll get a starting point. We'll begin with that conversation on this episode of the BIC podcast. The staring eyes of Brett Favre and the content gods upon us. He'd be very proud that the Green Bay Packers, with the youngest team in many, I think the youngest team ever to make a playoff like that, and the third straight, much to the chagrin of the NFC North, who is silently cursing and loudly cursing. The Packers have made the playoffs. They were able to get in there. I'll talk a little bit about the roller coaster side of it, but before I do, gentlemen. So, Brendan, so now is the opportunity. We're entering first round bye, but you can start scouting opponents and things. How are you feeling entering into the wild card weekend forthcoming?
I don't like it. I don't like that they sat Lamar, and then they have the bye week, so that's 2 weeks that he's not going to be playing. I said it before, like even knowing that they were going to set him. I said it. I was talking about it in the Discord. The same scenario happened in 2019. They had the best record in the league. Lamar won MVP. They sat him last week of the season. They had the bye week. They came in first playoff game, got smoked by the Tennessee Titans. Now, I will say it's kind of interesting because if cards fall the way they may, and the Buffalo Bills, well, I don't think things changed with Buffalo beating Miami, but if I'm not mistaken, if Buffalo and Pittsburgh lose, and if the Browns beat Houston, then the Browns would be playing Baltimore in the first game, and it would be Flacco against the Ravens, which that would be pretty spicy.
I see divided allegiances there. We've already discussed that this is a pro wacko for Flacco podcast, and it's like I don't know how we feel about this thing. So that's a potential matchup. We're definitely gonna have to look at that and see how that turns out. It was fun having some stuff to play for. It was good. It was funny as the last 2 years the Packers were there with a win in you're in scenario, and last year they didn't win, and this time around they were able to do it, especially with all the young players and everything into it. Fortunately, I can guarantee that Eric's team, the New England Patriots, will give up 0 points on Wild Card Weekend. I think the defense will shut out whoever they're facing in wildcard weekend. So I think we are confident in that. You can book that, take it all the way to the house.
The Patriots have a lot to be made fun of this year. The defense is not one of them, though. Defense was remarkable this year. I think they're one of the best defenses in the league. I think their defense is Super Bowl caliber. Their offense could not beat a high school JV team of a bunch of blind kids. So it's really been just horrible to watch this season. It's very, very disappointing. It's just, and then this past, weekend, Mac Jones, who started the season as the starting quarterback, was third on the depth chart on Sunday's game. He was not even the backup. They hate him so much now that he is the third in the depth chart. Terrible. And I just don't think it's overly fair. The offense has zero offensive line, no wide receivers to throw to, no tight ends to throw to. It's just horrible. Every single position, horrible. And somehow this kid's getting blamed for all of it. And the fans have turned on him. The team has turned on him. And I don't think Tom Brady in his prime could have made this team a 500 team. They're just horrible on offense.
There are two things that struck me from that entire soliloquy. First, I struggle to equate Tom Brady and prime.
Yes.
I feel like he was the same level suck the whole time.
Oh,
The whole
sure.
time. Now, second though, I was actually going to blame Tom Brady for it. So this makes it kind of awkward, problematic. I was actually just going to blame Tom Brady for the whole problem. But I do have one question for you,
Okay.
because then we'll move on from the New England Patriots. So, do you or do you not want Bill Belichick back in some capacity? I'm not saying in both roles, because a lot of folks talk about at this
Mhm.
point, like general managing, he should get away from it now. Please step away from the button, sir. But coaching, there's no reason to believe he can't coach. He seems still perfectly capable of doing, especially coaching defense. That's kind of his thing that he does.
Which
And he
again,
seems perfectly capable of doing that.
defense
So
was
in
remarkable.
theory, if you just step away from the lever, don't get away from, let somebody else pick the players.
Yeah.
You just coach them. Just do that.
Yeah, I think I people have been saying that for many years, even when Brady was here, um, that that he's not the best GM in the history of the league. He's the best coach in the history of the league, and but it goes all the way back to his mentor and previous Patriots coach Bill Parcells, who once said, "If they expect you to cook the meal, then you should be allowed to shop for the groceries." And Bill Belichick has the same philosophy. If you expect me to to run this team, I need to pick who's going to be on it. And he's definitely had some winners over the years. I mean, you just look at Brady, who was like picked in like the 6th round or something. I mean, he saw the talent there. He's made some good moves over the years, but this guy really has gone downhill in that department over the last few. And this offense, every single player on the offensive side of the ball was just absolutely horrible.
So the question was, do you vote to bring him back if you were able to get that condition or no?
I'd like to see him come back. I mean, only because who are you going to replace him with? Who's better? Find me a better coach that is obtainable, that the Patriots are going to get, that's going to turn everything around next year.
I think it's obvious to me. I think it's obvious to me if the first round of the playoffs go the way that I want. I could see Mike McCarthy being available. I hear he's great. He's fantastic with clock management. He's fantastic. He's awesome.
Yes, right.
He's very enthusiastic, and that would amuse me to no end.
No, he will not be welcome here under any circumstances. So, who, if you can, if somebody maybe with a greater football mind than I can tell me what coach is out there that is available and is better than Bill Belichick that could replace him, tell me, because right now I can't think of any. So why do you want to get rid of him?
I'll book Eric then as a reluctant yes. So I'll shift over to kind of the wild card weekend and the way this one's going to play out. We'll have to see how a lot of these teams go, because we're already starting to see some of the personnel movement. I think it was I want to say was it the Atlanta Falcons coach who got bounced already? First one out of the block. Understandably so. He didn't do a very good job. He didn't ascend Desmond Ridder the greatness that some of us were hoping for. So that unfortunately didn't come to pass. So that's a shame. That's maybe this will fix it. This will be the change that's required over there. But we're going to start seeing the coaching carousel pick up pace. But before we get all that, we still got some football, or as I like to call it, bonus football, because in this case I wasn't expecting it. So there was no expectation. But we got a little bit of bonus football. I'm going to pull up the so I'm going to quickly talk about the Packers here for a little bit, but then I'm going to shift over and I'm going to look at the matchups. So we're going to have a little fun. We're actually going to do a little pick 'em for the first round. We'll just do the first round. We'll look at the matchups that we got, and we assume that Eric could possibly do worse than the NHL. Fortunately, his NFL expertise supersedes that of his NHL expertise, so he cannot possibly mathematically do worse. We hope. We think. We hope. We think. But we'll see. So real quick, I won't spend too much time on it. I promise. I won't bore you all with it. I will say that I've been very pleased with the way the year has worked out, obviously, with the way it went. I predicted the Packers for 5 wins because I expect a certain amount of regression. What's weird, when I went through the whole year, the whole season, there was like different stretches, and it was described as kind of a roller coaster. It 100% was. Like the season itself was literally a roller coaster by definition. They start off the year beating Chicago handedly. So they bookended the year beating Chicago. The first game actually looked pretty good. Then they barely lost to Atlanta, who I just mentioned, their head coach is now gone. But then they managed to do a comeback win in New Orleans. And then they had a stretch of time where in the first half of games, they were literally not scoring. I remember making fun of that fact while we were doing this already by that point, where they literally weren't scoring in the first half of games. By the way, I'll go through some of Jordan Love's stats at the end, which is incredibly shocking given the fact there was a stretch of that. Well, they literally went a month. They went 4 games where they lost to Detroit, lost to Las Vegas, lost to Denver, who were terrible, and lost to Minnesota comfortably by 2 touchdowns, and that was flattering. So there was a stretch there of over a month where they could basically not have looked much worse. They look absolutely atrocious. So it looked like they were 2-5. They were dead in the water. The 5-win prediction looked pretty good. Then, of course, as you do, they win a random game against Los Angeles. They're in the middle of it. All right. They lose to Pittsburgh, but then they reel off 3 victories. They beat the Chargers, they beat Detroit, and they beat Kansas City in back-to-back weeks. So all of a sudden, now you're sitting there at 6-6, and it's like, okay, so now you got Danny DeVito. Spoiler on what happened with that one. So you got the game against the New York Football Giants, and then you got Tampa, where who we'll see what happens. And Tampa is a playoff team, despite everything, they're a playoff team at least. But they lost to Danny DeVito, and I know it's not Danny DeVito. I'm still going to call him that until further notice. But they lost to them, and they lost to Tampa, and then they reeled off 3 wins. They basically ran the table at the end of the season to make the playoffs. So they beat Carolina barely by 3 points. They made Carolina look pretty good. They made Danny DeVito look pretty good. It was a struggle all season. You beat Minnesota and you beat Chicago. So you play 2 division opponents in order to get to the playoffs at the very end of it. That's the definition of a roller coaster. You had 3 wins in a row, 4 losses in a row, and within the same season. You had separate stretches of all that. Now, in the end, that gets you 9-8, which was enough to get you into the playoffs. But it was weird, man. It was all of this. And by the time it was all said and done, 4,100 yards passing, second in the league in touchdown passes. That's pretty good. And better than the first full season under Rodgers, and better than the full season under the not swell fella himself, the patron saint of the podcast, Brett Favre. So very good. Well, obviously the hype is big for that, but now they're going to roll in. So first round, you're going to play Dallas. Now the thing is, I could pitch you a scenario where that becomes really interesting. It's the Mike McCarthy revenge tour. Does Mike McCarthy, get his vengeance against the Green Bay Packers? But on the other hand, it's the Dallas Cowboys, and they find a lot. Look, the respective rants from Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. If the Dallas Cowboys don't win, I'm going to remind you at the same time that I said that I praised the offense. I'm in the bizarro reverse situation of the Patriots that Eric just described. The defense really sucked. For large stretches of that, they were horrific. They were terrible. They made average quarterbacks look great. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. Their offense is pretty good. So in theory, they should score 50. They should be able to roll right up and down. However, if you play a game, even though it's the Chicago Bears and they're not on the same level, if you play a game similar to what you play against the Bears, where you're doing these long sustained drives, a lot of Aaron Jones, running the ball and mixing in the passing game and doing all that, 6 and 7 minute drives, and Dallas is sitting on the sideline, the offense is sitting there waiting to do something, you could turn it into a punching, slugging game where you could take it from them. You could steal it from them, which would, of course, drive Dallas insane. And the NFC North would literally be working on their voodoo curses, going, how? Why? 3, it's been 30 years. Why? Why is it one quarterback after the Bears are literally like, we've never had one quarterback. One. They really haven't. Like, if you look through the history, that
Grossman, he was fantastic.
I was more of a Jay Cutler guy.
Rex Grossman's a Super Bowl quarterback.
Jim McMahon. Come on. Jim
McMahon
McMahon won a Super Bowl.
That's true. Against the Patriots in the most lopsided victory of all time. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody looked at Jim McMahon as the reason why that happened.
It was not.
I think it's easier to look at Refrigerator Perry.
Yes.
I'm way more inclined to look at him but the point is this: their history with the quarterbacks, not great. Minnesota is trying to figure out what its situation is. Detroit right now is in a good spot. To their credit, they've done very well for themselves, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, I don't have any weird illusions of it. I expect Dallas to take care of business, but like I said, the only scenario I see is if you run the ball and do's the game management side of it. Basically, if you play the game you played against Chicago and don't make the same mistakes, you could make Dallas's life very difficult. But the path is very difficult because even if you do that, well, then you get San Francisco right after. So it's not a very easy path no matter what. You're on house money anyway. So I just look forward to a good game. That'd be a lot of fun. And we'll have to see how that plays out. Maybe Brandon is right. Maybe if San Francisco is really poorly rested, if they can get past Dallas, it's like, you guys rested for too long. That's it. Could you imagine though, Eric, there's an alternate reality, an alternate universe where Green Bay figures out how to do this. They beat 2 legitimate teams on the way there.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's Green Bay and Detroit in the NFC Championship game? Literally the entire NFC North would light themselves on fire. They would literally light themselves on fire. They're like, no, we're not doing this. Go ahead, Brandon.
Let's reflect on how, since we're doing the whole wacko for Flacco thing.
True.
Let's reflect on that Super Bowl run, because he had 3 games, came in as a wild card team, was on the road all 3 games, had to beat the likes of Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, make the Super Bowl, and then play the 49ers, who were hot as hell that year, had a great team, and had never lost a Super Bowl. It's possible. Is it going to happen for
not
your
likely?
Packers?
No, I would not
Who
put
knows?
my money on
But
it.
it's possible.
I'm just indulging myself in a bit of whimsy. Like I am not predicting that, but I'm just saying, Eric, for the sake of the narrative, though, it would be a pretty sweet narrative. It'd be in the NFC. That'd be kind of it. Literally, the Detroit Lions fans are like, no, not again. Avert our eyes. Why?
And can I just also make sure that I clarify? The Ravens had a great season. It's nice having, the record they have. It's nice having the first round bye in the playoffs. All of those things are very nice. But it still was a crap season. It still was for a lost cause. Even with the Super Bowl, this is a black eye if they win, because they lost to the Steelers twice. Both games, 17-10. I've always said the Ravens could win 2 games all year, but if they beat the Steelers both times, it was a successful season. This time they got a great record, but they lost to the Steelers twice. 2 of their 4 losses were to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's unacceptable, unexcusable. The season sucked.
Just terrible. I feel that Brandon is the opposite of your bastion of positivity, Eric. The opposite of your bastion of positivity. Very negative, yes. But like I said, just to be clear, I am not predicting anything that I just said. Like that was me just having a little fantasy booking fun. But I will say the narrative would be fantastic. And literally watching the Detroit fans being like, you'd literally be able to see them like, no, you said the Batman wasn't going to get us anymore. No, it'd be fantastic. It'd be glorious. And then, like I said, on the other side, if you're looking and it's not Wacko for Flacco or Baltimore or whatever, Green Bay's beaten Kansas City. They also they're 1-1 against Detroit this year. So like, there's some teams in the AFC that are legit that I think would be interesting. But again, flawed as they are, I don't sweat most of those matchups. They have already beaten Kansas City this year. So it's one of those things where it's like, we'll see.
I just want to see Dallas lose and Kansas City lose because I despise Dallas and I want all the Swifties to cry.
Wow. I see. That explains it. All right. So what I've done, so my fantasy booking segment is now over. Here is the actual brackets that I put here on the screen. I'm going to read them out so that we're all going. So we're going to do our first round predictions. So this is what the first round looks like. We got Baltimore and San Francisco at the top with buys. So they're going to be off this round. They don't have to worry about anything. They got to sit around and watch and scout their opponents. That's all they got to do for their purposes of it. So we're going to start off on the left. So I'm going to go through each one of these and you gentlemen can pick which one you want to go with. So first, we're going to have the fun one for the Discord. This is what I like to call the Neo and Sports Card Anonymous Bowl. We got Cleveland and Wacko for Flacco, the movement lives, versus the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud. You know, the young gun, this could be big. Brandon, this could be big for the Carts. This could be huge. We could get the Wacko for Flacco could take the movement, could take another level up, getting Cleveland forward and around, or CJ Stroud with a great performance. That could be monsters for some of the Prism. When we get to the section about talking about boxes and breaks and everything, We'll talk a little bit about Football Prism because that's a thing that obviously played into it. So this could be big for the card side of things. A good performance by either one of the quarterbacks here could be huge. So, gentlemen, I'll go third here on this one, and then I'll go first on the next one, and we'll alternate. All right, Brandon, Cleveland, Houston. Who do you have in the Discord Bowl?
Cleveland.
Going Cleveland? We're whack off of Flacco going to the next round?
Yep. They've looked too
All right.
good. Houston, they got a good young team, but they struggled in that last game to limp in. They've got kinks in their armor. Cleveland, Flacco, like they have the momentum. Yes, he sat this week, but they've looked good. They've looked confident. Cleveland.
All right. Eric, are you in the same boat or do you want to go Houston?
Flacco for Flacco, Cleveland.
All right. So I'll complete the trilogy, but I will say this. So for my personal preference, in this case, for the narrative, I'm going to pick Cleveland. But I'll tell you this. If it was a matter of putting money on it, I would seriously look at the odds. And whoever's the underdog, I would probably take the flyer on it and take the odds. That's how I would play this.
300.
It's going to be a good game. Yeah.
Yards a game.
Yeah.
350 yards a game. No, you can't. No.
There's plenty of talent on these in this one, and it's going to be fun. What I'm hoping for here, I want this game to be good, and it's like, Brandon, I'm going to keep pressuring these guys. I want Neo to do a live. I want Dakota to be on it, and I want them to lob curses at each other. We all want that. That's the content we need. That's what the content gods want. Now, I'm going to go to the second one here. Before I do it, though, I want to make sure we appreciate, and speaking of good content, I want to thank our friends at AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca, and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. The reason I'm doing this right now is we're going to talk about content. If you go to the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, we're going to talk about it a little bit more later on. We opened a case of the cup, 21-22 the cup. If you want to see what $7,200 retail gets you, you can see from the thumbnail. Yikes. And again, we'll reference this again, but lots of people have been checking it out. That video has been very popular on the channel. I will be back on the channel with the folks from AMG Collectibles tomorrow, and we will talk a little bit about that. But the plan is actually to have some follow-up videos related to it as well. We want to talk about the value proposition. In this case, spoiler, the case didn't work out that great. But if you want to see specifically what was pulled in it, all 36 cards, you get a chance to check it out on the channel if you want to look at it. Link is in the description. Check it out. And then there will be some subsequent follow-up videos because I think they're going to auction off all of the cards in that particular break. And we're going to see what comes out of it. This is how much the cost would have been. This is what comes out of it, and you're going to get some numbers, and I think that'd be interesting for folks to check out. So you've got that. So thanks to AMG for supporting the channel and this podcast.
Yeah, now, I want to thank Sherry and the folks over at Sherry. I want to thank Sherry, Sherry, and the folks over at AMG and Sherry for doing that. It was very entertaining. Thank you for putting that kind of cost up and sacrificing for our entertainment. So I want to thank Sherry and the folks over at AMG for that. Amazing.
So yes, if you do want to live vicariously, what is a very expensive product and the highest end product in the hockey market, check it out. And like I said, link will be in the description if you want to check that out as well. Now, next up, we got Miami taking on Kansas City. Now, this one has a little bit of a Discord element because Brandon may have horribly tortured an individual, a tortured soul who is a Miami Dolphins fan. There's a lot of Miami Dolphins fans that I do happen to know, a couple of different ones. And also Brad8671 is also a Miami Dolphins fan. Here, so what I'm going to do is I'll start off, and then I'll ask Eric, and then I'll ask Brandon. So we'll just reverse the order from this last one. So what we're going to go with, I'm going to go with Kansas City. Not only because the pain of this individual will be amusing to me, but also realistically, now that it is the playoffs, I think they're going to be able to bunker down. I still believe Andy Reid is an excellent coach, and I think they will figure out a way to adapt and adjust. But Kansas City, to be clear, when we get into subsequent rounds, if they manage to get past this round, also Miami is super banged up. Like they're super banged up. So we just have to be realistic about that. I think Kansas City's got enough in them to offer a spirited defense here. But again, nothing will shock me in this round. There is no scenario you can present to me that would truly shock me. I expect Kansas City to take care of business here. That's my angle. Eric, what say you?
I'm going to go with Miami. I've watched, I think, just every single Kansas City game because they're televised every week nationally, and they've really had some ups and downs. Their offense has struggled. when it's on, it's on. But I've seen it more off this season than I have in past seasons, and Miami is just lighting things up right now. That combination of Tua and the super fast wide receiver who's I'm missing his name at the moment, top of my head, I apologize, is just incredible. Who he of course he used to play for Kansas City and be Mahomes' number one guy, and now he's in Miami and he's Tua's number one guy, and the stuff that they're doing on the field is just incredible.
Now, in the spirit of fairness, I am going to again repeat. So, are you not taking into account that the Buffalo beat Miami last night, and we're not taking into account any of the injuries?
No,
Because Waddle was seen on the sideline. Jalen Waddle is one of the folks you were referring to. He's been injured. He's banged up. There's a bunch of folks in the defensive side that are injured. Some pass rushing issues.
No,
there are some potential issues there.
I think Miami. It's the playoffs. Guys are going to tape it up, get the needle, and they'll show up. And Kansas City has been more discombobulated this season than I've seen them in years. And I think they're ripe for a first round knockout.
All right, Brandon, I tried. What say you?
So those two teams, Miami and Buffalo, swapped because of the outcome of the game last night. So earlier, my statement of who needed to lose to get Cleveland playing Baltimore scenario was off. I'm going to go Kansas City, but I'm going for a different reason. One, yes, they're banged up. They've struggled. They got demolished by the Ravens. They lost last night. And as Eric mentioned, Tyreek Hill used to play for Kansas City, so Andy Reid is very familiar with Tyreek's strengths and probably has a game plan of some sort to try to, you're not going to stop him, but, somewhat limit him of some sort. So that is a factor there that can benefit Kansas City. Also, I'm not up on my national weather, but I know there's been some cold fronts coming through, some bad weather coming through, and that would play better in the hands of Kansas City than it would obviously Miami. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Kansas City.
Now, I also will say, based on the way the brackets here go out, if Kansas City takes care of business, if Buffalo takes care of business, so we'll touch on that in a second, and if the Wagner for Flacco movement carries on, we do still have the ability to get that Cleveland-Baltimore second round matchup. That is still in play. So if everything else goes chalk and the Cleveland one goes the minor upset, because I'm going to call it minor upset. Cleveland has been playing well, and Houston was able to play in. So to their credit, they're the 4 seed. The 4 seed and the 5 seed, though, to me are not that far apart. I do like a lot of what Cleveland has going on. We talked about that already. For the narrative also, I love that. So we'll see. So that leaves us with the last matchup here in the AFC. We got Pittsburgh taking on Buffalo. I'll touch on one point here that kind of plays into it. Buffalo obviously had to win against Miami to take it in. But Miami, as I said, was super banged up. Buffalo did take care of that. They have shown a lot of propensity to create a lot of issues. There was one point that was made that was kind of interesting. It was mentioned in Discord, but it was also mentioned, I think, in some social medias, was that Josh Allen became the first quarterback to total 40 touchdowns, to account for 40 touchdowns in 4 consecutive seasons. That is both passing and running. So rushing and passing touchdowns combined. There have been players who have had 40 touchdowns throwing in consecutive years. I think Rodgers and Brady are the only 2 that have done that 3 times. Well, Josh Allen has managed to combine. So obviously, if you run in a touchdown or throw a touchdown, the touchdown still counts. And if you're the one generating that, that's interesting. Josh Allen is a pretty good runner in terms of rushing touchdowns. Being as big as he is, he can rumble his way into but that is a physical style of game that may not serve him in the long run, running into collisions, at the end zone at the line of scrimmage.
No. He's not playing 20 years like Brady. No way.
But to his credit, though, that does allow you to accumulate. The other thing with Josh Allen, the big bugaboo, he is a turnover machine. He gives up a lot of turnovers because he will run. That means he has an opportunity to fumble. And he does throw interceptions. So that gives him an opportunity to give up possessions that way. Pittsburgh managed to get into the playoffs here, kind of limped into it. But in the end, okay, so does Pittsburgh have enough in it to knock off Buffalo? Buffalo is not exactly a strong number 2. They're the number 2 seed, but they're not like this strong, unbeatable number 2. They've had plenty of flaws in their game. So, Brandon, you're first on this one. What do you say? You
Buffalo.
And you're not just saying that because you want to avoid the wacko for Flacco movement. You want Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's not that good of a team. I mean, we don't even know who the hell their quarterback's going to be. They barely, like I just mentioned, they beat the Ravens, yes, but they beat the Ravens that were on the bench, resting. They didn't beat the actual team. So, and they barely beat them. It was 17-10. So, Buffalo, like even Josh Allen can probably throw 2 interceptions and still be fine and still beat Pittsburgh. Miami, yes, they're beat up, but they just beat Miami with Tua and, Tyreek. Pittsburgh doesn't have that combination. So I still think Buffalo's a better team. They got flaws, but yeah, Buffalo.
All right, Pittsburgh. Now you got bulletin board material. Brandon doesn't believe in you. He wants to avoid the wacko for Flacco. Eric, I see what's going on here. He's like, no, please, Pittsburgh. It's like I need you. I want the lower seed. Eric, what say you?
It's Buffalo. If they lose to this Pittsburgh team this year, this is going to be one of the worst losses in Buffalo's playoff history since Scott Norwood missed that field goal. So I think if Buffalo loses to Pittsburgh in the first round, this Pittsburgh team, which is not very strong, they should blow the whole team up and start again. It would be a huge, huge loss. You can't just go in the locker room and say, well, we had a good year and we'll start focusing on next year right away. And no, we all should just go kill ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be absolutely devastating. They should blow the whole franchise up if they lose to Pittsburgh.
Wow. I don't think I want to go quite that dramatic. Eric is a bastion positivity for 2024, having people kill themselves. Like it's a pretty dark time in this timeline when we got that going on. I expect Buffalo should be able to take care of this one, but you never know. Like I said, I don't. You could sell me on a lot of these scenarios. I will pick Buffalo for the purpose of this conversation because we secretly all want Cleveland and Baltimore in round 2. That's what we all want.
Oh,
it's what needs to happen, I think, for all our collective sakes.
Yes.
To be clear, I don't want it. I just said it would be spicy.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Well, to be fair, the rest of us do want it.
Yes.
To be fair, the rest of us do want it. We would like that very much.
Everyone want. Yeah. The Baltimore Cleveland fans want it. The players want it. Yeah.
It's not only a Flacco versus Baltimore thing. It's a Cleveland versus Baltimore.
A whole moving out of town.
I love, Brandon, I love it on levels. I love it on multiple levels. I love it on multiple levels. I enjoy it on multiple levels. I think, chef's kiss. I like it. All right, let's move over to the NFC.
Baltimore plays the Colts too at any time because the fans, they still remember.
Yep. They have reason to be bitter. It's legit. They have reason to be bitter. That's legit. All right, moving over to the NFC. We got San Francisco gets the bye on that side of things. So first side of the block here, we have Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay, not exactly amazing down the stretch. They got in. The point is they're in the tournament. However you want to slice it, they are in the tournament. Philadelphia has had its own struggles too, and they've got some injury woes. So there's a lot going on there. I'm not super comfortable with. So again, I've mentioned before, I like gambling. So I've got Sportsbook online that I can do stuff, and I'm going to look at some of these matchups very carefully, and I'm going to try my best to. When I'm making these wagers, I'm not just doing it for narrative. I'm doing like what I legitimately think because I want to win. The point of betting on the sportsbook, I want to win the wager, so I pick what I think is going to happen. I believe that. So I'll pick first on this one. I believe Philadelphia should be able to win this. All those injuries though bother me. And even the Philadelphia guys that I know don't have a lot of confidence in this one. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Bakers. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel comfortable. And I would not bet on this game. This is me staying away. For wagering purposes, I'm staying the hell away from this game. I don't like it. I don't care what the line is. I don't care what it looks like. I want no part of this. I will reluctantly pick Tampa Bay. That's where I'm sitting at. So, Eric, what do you think? Tampa Bay, Philadelphia.
I'm going Tampa Bay. Philadelphia, I believe, has lost the last 7 games in a row after starting 10-0. Thought they were going to be the next undefeated team. They're already given the Super Bowl. I think the rings were already being made on week 10, and then they went and lost like 7 in a row. So they're not going to go to Tampa Bay and all of a sudden turn things around. No, they're done. They're done. They have no life left. They are miserable. I don't think they believe in themselves. They just want to hit the golf course. They're done.
I see. I think Brandon is subtle, but I think Eric is saying they're done. What do you think?
I think this is a coin flip. I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to say, yes, Philadelphia has looked like crap.
Mhm.
But I think, I hate to do hashtag script, but I think the NFL would much rather Philadelphia advance. And so for those reasons, I'm going Philly. I think they have to win. It's not going to be, I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Philly will win, or they should win. But I'm going against the grain. So yeah, we'll go Philly.
All right. At least, hey, look, that means somebody's going to get it right. I don't mind when somebody goes against the grain. At least it offers us the opportunity for someone to go to someone else. Someone's going to be correct here. We're going to find out what that's going to look like. All right. That takes us to the Rams and Detroit. Look, this is both narrative and the fact that it could be potentially very entertaining. I want the dream. I want the dream of my narrative of the entire NFC North slowly hating themselves. Let's do it, Lions. Let's go. We want this. Let's make this happen. This is also the Stafford Bowl, right? So we've got the Stafford Bowl going on here. So we've got that. That could be kind of fun. All right, Detroit, let's go. I'm giving this one to you because I want to see. I'm going to cross my fingers for the other part of this equation, but let's go. Let's go to the Stafford Bowl, beat Stafford, make it happen, advance to the next round, and let's see what happens here. We could have a little bit of fun with this one. That's what I'm going to go with. So Brandon, you right back to you on this one. Detroit, the Rams. What say you?
I'm sorry, Detroit. It took you 30 years to get there. I'm going with the Rams.
Wow, Barry Sanders is rolling in his grave and he's still alive.
I mean, they haven't looked good either. I know they got that 3 seed sitting there, but like they've been kind of questionable. We've talked about it earlier in the year, how it was like an unpredictable season. They looked great for a bit. Looked like they were a very good team, and then they look like they forgot how to play football. They're not used to the playoffs. It's January. They should have been already tucked in bed by now. That's what they're used to by Thanksgiving. I got to go with the Rams.
All right, Eric, Rams, Detroit.
No, Detroit at home. There is no way those fans will allow them to lose. This is going to be the loudest, craziest game that has been in the league in a very, very long time. If somehow Detroit loses this game, I predict there being riots like Vancouver in 2000.
Well, I'll have you know, I can tell you right now, I have a good line on it. Vancouver is prepared to riot in sympathy. They're ready.
They made a sister city kind of a thing.
Yeah. Anytime anybody loses in horrific fashion, Vancouver is like on standby. They're like, we will sympathy riot for you people.
I honestly hope that the authorities in Detroit are prepared if they were to lose at home.
What, to protect the ruins?
Yeah.
It's like, Eric, I've actually gone to a game at Ford Field. There's like ruins outside. It's like, what are they going to do? Destroy the ruins? They're going to destroy the ruins? What, ruin them more?
You got to protect the lead pipes. The water pipes with all the lead in them and stuff, and the empty factories and the burnt down houses. You got to protect them.
I'm sure they've rebuilt it. I'm sure it's very nice. But I'm just saying, I went to Ford Field, went to the game, and on the way walking there, you walked by a post-apocalyptic thing, and that was years ago.
Right, it's not good.
It's like, that's Detroit.
But I think if Detroit is to lose their next game, I think people would be like, all right, hey. That was a lot of fun this year. That was a good run. If they lose this game, the Stafford Bowl, at home, the cars will be set on fire.
Man, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough. That might like cause at least dozens of dollars worth of property damage. What's left?
Well, it's gonna be a news because, like I said, The Rams are winning. The
No.
fans can be as loud as they want.
No.
Matt Stafford played there. He knows those fans are the same people that have showed up and supported the team for years.
But now
the
they're
Rams are
actually
winning.
excited. They've been supporting a losing franchise for years. Now they're excited. They're not going to let Detroit lose. They are going to be the 12th man, no doubt.
We're gonna
Like
have
we
to see.
said,
This is gonna be interesting.
For the Rams.
I enjoy that we got a little bit of controversy, a little contradiction in there. That this could be, like I said, guys. This first round amuses me. I'm enjoying. I like this first round. To be honest, I like it, and I like the potential scenarios to play out of this. So I like this. All right, last one here on the docket on the NFC. So 2 versus 7. We got Green Bay and Dallas. I'll make this easy. I would wager on Dallas to win this. I expect them to win it. I laid out a scenario where Green Bay could. Like Dallas is flawed. They're a number 2, but they've got plenty of flaws on them. It's the same as the Buffalo on the other side of it. They've got some flaws too. And anytime Mike McCarthy is there and it's the playoffs, I'm like, ooh. And I know from personal experience, I'm like, ooh, you could totally screw this up. I could see you doing something crazy, some weird clock management bullshit. Like there's so much stuff that could happen. And it'd be like, if Green Bay comes out of this, it would not shock me. But at the same time, given how bad their defense has been, Joe Barry, for the majority of this year, if Dallas put up 40 or 50 on him, it would also not shock me. There is no scenario that you could sell me. If I'm putting my money on it, I will bet on Dallas, not because I think Dallas is great or because I like Dallas. I want them to lose. I would love that. Nothing more than that. But if I'm betting money and I'm trying to win, I'm looking at the defense, and defense is a little suspect. That's why I laid out that scenario. I said, if the Green Bay offense controls the clock by running the ball enough to keep possession, and they don't let the Dallas offense get on the field for chunks of time, and let Dak Prescott and those guys sit there and go like, when are we actually going to get back out there? Then I like their chances a lot better. I like, I need a heavy dose of Aaron Jones. You give me a heavy dose of Aaron Jones, I like your chances. If it's back and forth and you're trying to do a shootout thing, I don't like your chances as much. So I'll pick Dallas. Brandon, what do you say?
I have to go Dallas for no other reason. I mean, Green Bay, they got in. Congrats to them. But as I stated with the Philly Tampa Bay thing, the NFL, hashtag script would want Dallas to play Philly, and it just makes sense. So,
all right. Eric, last one here. Green Bay, Dallas, what say you?
I will be rooting for Green Bay. I am picking Dallas.
Mm-hmm. It's fair. I get it. I think it'll be interesting. This is there's some potential here. Like I said, for me, to be fair though, Brandon, from what you were saying about narrative though, you got to admit the Green Bay Dallas is like a classic, NFL rivalry. By the way, if you want a good over under, how about over under the amount of times they reference the Ice Bowl and some of the previous Green Bay Dallas games, especially playoff games and big games.
But I was just looking at the picks, right? And
yeah,
I'm joking but not joking. Kind of like that sorry, not sorry thing on the script. But look at the matchups. If it played out the way that I picked here, Flacco versus Baltimore, Cleveland versus Baltimore. Great story there. Then you would have Mahomes versus Josh Allen. They could, blast that one and advertise that to the masses. Then you would have Philly and Dallas, a division rivalry, defending Super Bowl appearance with Philly, Dallas, America's team, yada, yada. All of the narratives would work themselves out for the NFL and the stories and everything else. So.
I'll just say I kind of like the historical back-to-back of Dallas, Green Bay, and then Green Bay and San Francisco, because they've also had some previous playoff matchups in the. Again, you could play the clips. Here's where Colin Kaepernick ran like hell on Green Bay. There have been a couple of different ones where it's been like that, and they have some history. Those teams do have some history going in there, so I think that'll be kind of interesting. But anyway, I think overall I like this. I like the way this bracket goes out. I like some of the potential narratives. I guess it'll depend. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what pieces come together and kind of play it by ear from there.
There's a lot of question marks because your stronger teams, like the teams that should be like no-brainers, have a lot of question marks. And then the teams that they're facing, they kind of made it in ugly. Like Pittsburgh shouldn't be a playoff team. Green Bay, you're a fan. You were, will they, won't they? Tampa Bay, who the hell expected them to be a division winner, let alone in the playoffs, Miami went from a 2 seed to a 6 seed in one game, so there's like a lot of what the hell happened. Cleveland in the play. We have Cleveland and Detroit in the playoffs. In the same playoffs, we have Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions. I don't know if the NFL history books could tell us when the last time that happened.
I'm not 100% sure that we'd have to go back basically to the old NFL. We'd have to go back to the old NFL pre-Super Bowl era, I think, in order to find that. That's what we'd have to be looking. Yeah, so it's been a long time. So some interesting potential
was playing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So either way, there should be fascinating. So that's our first round thoughts on that. I like this first round, though. I'm not going to lie. I like the Super Wildcard recap. I'm kind of excited for it. I'm interested. I'm definitely into it. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. All right. We'll talk a little bit more about that once the games start playing out. And you never know. You never know. I might have to. I was chatting with Big Scott and a lot of those guys after the fact. It's like I kind of like the idea of doing like a watch along. It's like, all right, Scott, you and I do a watch along. That'd be fun because he's a Cowboys guy. That'd be kind of fun to do. I like the watch alongs, man. I'm a big fan of them, especially if you actually have people who actually like the teams. Then that makes it a little bit more fun for me. As you know, to each their own. And we'll see depending on how things go. I'm also curious, like, and bringing it back into the sports card side of things. I'm also curious how the narratives then play, because even though theoretically, if you wanted to #invest, you want to have those cards already. Like, to be clear, you want to have those cards ahead of time, not trying to make moves now. It'd be like a weird time to do it, unless you do it on ComC or something like that, and you're able to get something for a good price and then flip it right away. If that's the case, then so be it. I think it should be okay. But what I'd be curious is what happens to the short-term narratives, and if you get a little spikes, little bumps. So, for example, CJ Stroud goes off and throws for 450 yards in a playoff win. That'd be huge for him, right? You know, it'd be huge for his Prism card in the short run. In the short run, it would be huge for him. You'd see a little quick spike, and then we'll see some of these other guys. Look, other side of the equation, Flacco goes off and has a tremendous game, you know, has a 3-touchdown game and everything. It plays it up even more. Brandon regrets not buying the NT Flacco even more. It's just craziness. Wacko Flacco, the whole world.
I'm just waiting for people to forget who he is again, and then I'll
it might be tough when he's, 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, and they built a statue of him outside of Cleveland, and he's like, he is the greatest Joe Flacco playoff performer in Cleveland history. Like, all of a sudden, Cleveland renames himself Joe Flacco Land. It might be tough after that.
They might actually rename Lake Erie to Lake Flacco.
Lake Flacco. I'm just saying. Like, Brandon, I'm sorry. At that point, the city budget is going to be buying NTRPAs of Joe Flacco. Like, they're everybody's in. They're buying them all. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, so that's kind of a fun one. I had a little fun with that. Okay, a couple quick things that we'll touch on, and then we'll get into kind of the main topic here. One of the things I want to kind of bring out to folks' attention briefly, and I'll talk about it more down the road here, is going to be that 2024 AEW Flagship has been announced. I'm like, really, guys? Hold on. Settle down. Calm down. They're saying July. It's like, we'll see. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on that upper deck. We'll find out. Also, I want to give credit to 540 Flips now. It's blown up. It's gone crazy. We'll give the little plug at the end, but it's craziness now.
I forgot my name was even on here like that. I forgot to change it.
Yes, that's you. Brandon 540 Flips. But obviously you had a couple of videos take off, so that worked out very nicely. And I think you got over 500 subscribers, so congratulations on that. So that was a nice big boost there for the channel.
Yeah. I messaged you because I still don't understand the YouTube algorithm. I put a video up, and it sits there weirdly for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden it's I'm like, what the hell?
I just think it's people sympathizing with your Wacko for Flacco fealty, your respect for Wacko for Flacco, and they're like, I need to support this man.
That could be. There was somebody that put a comment, and I've never had anybody do this before, which luckily that channel is still relatively new, but they commented on the video and they said, I just found your channel. Thank you. Little comment there, and then they're like, I'm going to go binge watch all your other videos. And I'm like, you're really that bored? I mean, and they started.
That's a pitch for 540 Flips. If ever, like, Eric, that's a pitch for 540 Flips. If ever I heard one. It's like 540 Flips YouTube channel. Are you really that bored?
It was like, you're gonna go binge watch all of my videos? Okay, but and then they started commenting on each. Like it was 20 minutes later, I get a new comment. 10 minutes, another new comment. I'm like, they're really watching every damn video.
Super fandom. If you want to join the movement, 540 flips on YouTube. There you go. And also hit the like button for this one. But yes. All right. I just thought I would mention that. Also, we'll talk more about it if it becomes a bigger thing. I did catch on social media that LeBron posted on social media with like what a Fanatics looking thing is. Right now, I don't know too much about it. So we'll do a little more digging into it. We'll come back to it. And if it's a thing, maybe we'll discuss it on Friday or we'll discuss it next week once we have a little bit more information. At least potentially interesting. And there is a Sports Collectors Daily article, which I pulled up. I will link it in the description for you. Again, it's very early. We're just looking basically at a social media post from LeBron James showing a Fanatics thing and then saying, alluding basically to it as like greatness awaits. What the hell does that mean? Lord knows. I have no idea. So that's why I say, like, it's very early days. We don't know too much about it, but I'll link it. I'll link it anyway, just so you can check it out for yourself. And something else that I'm not going to necessarily commit to following up by next episode, maybe the episode after that. I did download on Kindle the book by Mike Kramer. So I will take some time and try to read it. And if I read it, I will give a book review. That may be forthcoming. So I may offer a book review on the Mike Kramer memoir. I saw some of the reviews that are on Amazon, and I'm like, all right, I got to read this shit because if any of those reviews sound anything like it, I'm like, what did you write about yourself? It is an autobiography. So I'm like, what did you write about yourself? And I'm curious now. It's piqued my curiosity, and I've got it on the tablet here, so I can read it. So I'll be able to go through. By the way, it's cheaper on the tablet. Just if you get Kindle, it's actually cheaper than buying the physical book. I'm like, I don't need the physical book for this. I'll just read it. It'll be fine. So I'll report back my findings once I get through the book. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about for the main topic was basically this. It's a discussion I've had on the live stream. It's a discussion we've had before a little bit. We touched on it last week a little bit as well about kind of the current state of the whole distribution dealer, model, especially with unopened. That's just one category, but it's a specific one. And part of what precipitated that, and I'll share this on the screen for you while I'm talking about it. Part of what precipitated it is the discussion about Series 2 hockey. Now, I know not everybody, most of the folks that are watching this probably don't care that much about hockey, but stick with me on it. You'll understand where I'm getting at with this. The point is it applies to the other sports too. We can talk about Prism football. We can talk about we can talk about baseball. We can talk about Fanatics is going to change its thing. We'll touch on some of that idea. Again, this will be the beginning of a discussion. And what I'll try to do is I'll try to get some folks that are more on the distribution side or on the card shop side to come in and give a little insight, a little side to it. But back before, when Brad Hartland was operating AMG Collectibles full time, we talked about it a little bit on the PSA Canada channel because they're still operating it. Well, Sherry is still operating it day to day, and I'm doing that with AMG Collectibles now. And I have a chance to see a little bit about what the price points are on the things at the distribution to card shop level. Well, if you're running a business, you also have to mark it up from there. So what I'm showing here on the screen for folks listening audio-wise is David Adams showing the pre-sale page for 23-24 Upper Deck Series 2. And right now the pre-sale price is $299.95 USD. So we talked a little bit about it before we got the recording going. So I'm going to take some water here to get deparched. But before I do, just high-level thoughts on general about that price point for Series 2, knowing what we know about what the price point was for Series 1. So Brandon or Eric, whichever one of you wants to go first.
Well,
Brandon,
I'll touch on it real quick and throw it to Eric. But what I mentioned when we were touching on it before we went and recorded was obviously we know Bedard. We know he's the chaser. We know he's got talent. We know that young gun's going to have value, yada, yada. There's going to be a high demand for it. But when you're talking $300 per box, and they're 12 box cases, so, $3,600 plus taxes, whatever. What I have historically seen and what likely, and this is just an assumption, but likely it will happen, is, and Carlos kind of, did the math on it there. It's a 50 card Young Gun checklist. You have 6 per box, and there's 12 boxes, so 72 roughly Young Guns total across the case. And you're going to have duplicates of some players. You're likely only going to see one Connor Bedard Young Gun per case. Some cases may contain 2. most will only contain one. $3,600 price point to get one. Now, I know there's other players in there or whatever, but he's the driving force of this value. That's a bit insane. What are your put yourself into a modern mindset, a hockey fan modern mindset. Let's say you would like to own a Bedard, you don't want to buy it off somebody, you want the thrill of pulling it. What is your thoughts on hearing that $3,600 case for the chance of likely only one Bedard Young Gun in that case?
Yeah, no, that's it's utterly ridiculous. You know, I mean, I'm prejudiced. Yes, I collect vintage, so I would not even be hunting for this. But yeah, that math, which it just doesn't add up, and it doesn't make sense. Most people cannot afford $3,600. They might be able to scramble $300. And I would say, ask yourselves, if you spend $300 for a box and you go home and you rip it all and you don't have the Bedard in there, how are you feeling about your choices, the hobby, card collecting? You know, I, I don't understand this part of collecting. I would simply, if I wanted a Bedard Young Guns, I would take that $300 and pocket it, or that $3,600 and pocket it, and I'd wait for someone else to pull it and sell it. I'd buy a raw copy because that's going to be even cheaper, and then I would decide whether or not I want to send it in for grading myself. But
well, I'm glad you brought that up because there was something else I wanted to touch. So Carlos had mentioned before we recorded how most of the Young Guns are only going to be about roughly $5, and that is normally the case. But if there's more of this product opened, because as you also mentioned, it may become a breaker product because of the price and the cost.
I think it'll have to be, just because the box price is so high.
Well, I could see those normal historical $5 Young Guns actually becoming less, because if more of the product than what is averaged opened is open chasing Bedard, you're going to get more of the common or lesser sought after guys. So even the set collectors are going to have more available. And then Eric touched on the grading aspect of it. I don't want to kick Upper Deck in the shins, but the last couple of years, the print quality has sucked, and it's actually been hard to even gem on these Young Guns. And so you may potentially spend that money and hit the Bedard, and it might come out the pack as an 8, where then you're like, crap, So you hit the guy you wanted, and it's not even in good condition.
We pulled the Series 1 draft day card of him at the shop, and out of the wax, in your hand,
probably a print line
in the plastic, and this thing looked beat up. The corners were dinged, there was paint missing, chipped, all sorts of issues with it. We still sold it for $500 the next day, but I think that's simply because of the FOMO of people, wanting this. This thing was beat up, and that is the way it came out of the package. So, like Brandon said, if the quality is going to continue to be bad for these things, that's something else you have to factor in when you go to spend that money. Are you going to spend $3,600 to try to get one of these, to guarantee yourself one of these, pull it, and it's all chewed up? Now what? You send it in, you get a 7? You're not getting $3,600 back.
Now, here's a question I would pose based on that. So let me pose this question, though. Speaking of what you just said, and that's why I say this conversation, just so everybody's on the same page, will go in a couple of different directions here. So bear with us, because there is more impact. It's more than just one product. It's more than just one. We're using this as an example because we're all at least familiar with it. Eric works in a card shop of ill repute. It has him, so it's ill repute. But the point is, they also sell boxes. They also sell singles. They also sell memorabilia. So it's a combination of all the above. Brandon historically has opened boxes of hockey and those things, cases as well. So he understands that piece of it. Obviously, I have an association with AMG and also being friends with and being involved in that section of hobby, and also just being an attendee. When we go to the expo, the 2 times a year, the Series 1 and Series 2 are big components of the breaking side of things, because Upper Deck sets up at the expo. So this is important. We give this context. You know, I tease Eric about the thing, but the point is every card shop that does boxes understands this. And we'll touch on a little bit more about the rest of it. But we're just using this example because we know we have enough knowledge to know this one well, but we'll touch on some other examples as well. But when you're talking about a product like this is a make or break product for some card shops for the year. Make or break product. It's a huge, especially if you're in an area that buys a lot of hockey. People chase after those young guns. People build this. That is still, well, has been. I'm curious what this year will look like. It has been historically a set builder set, along with SP Authentic and a handful of other ones. These are still sets that some people will chase, because even though the young guns are, there's 100 young guns between Series 1 and Series 2. That's a lot. They're short printed, but they're still available traditionally in enough abundance where it's not 1 or 2 out there. So bring it back around to what Brandon was saying, though, is if the quality control issues continue, then how much of a premium do you get for a legitimate PSA 10 Connor Bedard then? If for whatever reason it's very difficult because of whatever condition issues. So if you do get a PSA 10 or an SGC 10 or, you know, a BGS 10, not likely, but whatever. The point is, let's say you get one that legitimately deserves a premium because it's actually a nicer copy than the normal copies that are out there. It is difficult to gem. It's not easy. And the gem rate is actually really low. So there are going to be some hardcore collectors, though, that want the nicest version of it. And if you can actually offer to, they will pay a premium. What does that do to the price of the rest of them as well? Because then even the 8s and 9s will still hold some value because, hey, if it's hard to gem, it's hard to gem. You want a nice copy, this is the next best thing. If you can't gem it, a nice 9 will do. But you'll still pay a premium for that then.
Yeah, whatever the highest number is. And, you know, with the pop reports, and it's like, oh, only 6 9s, nothing higher. Well, then if 9s is the ceiling, you're going to pay this for the ceiling price.
Here's a question, and this is, I know this is steering away from the topic of distribution and product, but since we're focusing on this one and the value of this product right now, there's potential, and I don't think it would happen, but we never know. If this card comes out at an astronomical price on the singles market, that then drives the demand further for people to actually pony up and pay the box price, will we see the box price increase even more? And will this Bedard Young Guns, will it drive other cards inside of hockey, specifically like in relation to like a McDavid? I don't know what his Young Gun is sitting at right now, but I'm going to say what, $1,000, something like that. If the Bedard's coming out at approximately 1.5 per case, and the case is $3,600, you have to expect that the value of this card is going to be kind of teasing around a McDavid price. Is it going to push the McDavid up? Is it going to drive?
Are we talking about an ungraded McDavid? Are we talking about an ungraded McDavid? Is that what you're referring to? A raw copy?
Either or. Just in comparison's sake, because you know we mentioned the 10s, and if they're tough to gem, you know that it could all be a factor.
Yeah, so I'll pull up what the Connor McDavid has been, but I want to say it's a couple of grand, especially if it's at a 10.
People are definitely going to go crazy over this, and they're going to spend lots of money, and there's going to be a hunt, and there's going to be a lot of FOMO, and there's going to be a lot of excitement. But there's going to be a couple of people out there who are going to say, I am going to hold my money right now and wait for the, you know, Cup RPA, and I'm going to put all my money into that. Because long term, that's going to be worth even more. So
the being the Cup, yes. But one thing about it is that what's helped those young guns in the past. So I was just scanning through some on Terra Peak here. 2249, 2250, 2250. This is all January here. 2250, 2600 in an auction in January the 2nd. So somewhere in that 2000, 2500-ish range, somewhere in there. And that's for Connor McDavid. Now, the thing is, the key point is kind of in going to the question. The Young Guns are available in enough quantity that they trade regularly. They're very liquid. Let's just put it that way. Let's use the term, since that was a big thing during the boom, liquidity, right? So that's something that has this demand, it has desire. An Ovechkin Young Gun is liquid. It's not that it's hard to get. It's available. It's out there. A Crosby Young Gun. Again, if you're the right players, an Austin Matthews Young Gun. So there's plenty of them out there. And even in PSA 10s, there's plenty of them out there. But they still trade. You know, you can put it down on the dealer table. And if you guys are able to come to a number that you're satisfied with, the transaction can happen fairly quickly. You can move those. So that's what's historically been a big thing for them. And as again, Upper Deck Flagship historically has been a set builder set. I used SP Authentic because that is another one with the Future Watch that has also been a set builder set. Less so, but still, there's some folks that will put together a set of the Future Watches. So there's still the cup, though, is its own beast. Most of the time, the people that are getting a cup RPA want the ones they want. They're not trying to necessarily build a set. There are a handful of hardcores that are like, yeah, I want a set of the full RPAs for the year. But they're few and far between. These other ones still have that set builder because the Future Watch are out of $9.99. So there's still enough of them out there. And then the Young Guns are more than that. So Connor Bedard it's not like they're only going to print 100 of them or 1,000 of them or 10,000 of them. They're going to print way more than that. You're going to be able to get your hands on them. Sure.
They also, I don't remember all the details, but didn't they add at least one more serial numbered Young Gun this year? Is it one or two? Instead of just having high gloss exclusives,
I was gonna say
one or two more.
You got the outbursts.
Yeah, there's going to be acetate, and there's going to be red ones and blue ones, and there's going to be canvas ones and serial numbered ones and rainbow ones, and yeah, they're going to throw everything at the wall for this. So there's going to be, the regular Young Gun, and then they're going to have all these other things in there to hunt more for.
My point was, with the added numbered copies means an increased print, because you gotta fulfill the numbered copies, and now there's an extra element of a higher serial number where it used to just be 10 and 100. Now you got that other one in there that you got to throw, and you got to make it hard enough to hit. So that's going to mean that there's going to be more of the base copies out there.
Yeah. And for comparison's sake, since we mentioned him, for Connor McDavid, that was 2015. But for Connor McDavid, I can tell you that just in PSA Gem Mint 10s, the population, just the Gem Mint 10s, is over 2,700. Almost 2,800 Gem Mint 10. That's Gem Mint 10s. I'm not counting 9s. I'm not counting 8s. I'm not counting Raw. I'm not counting SGC. I'm not counting Beckett. Only PSA 10s, 2,700, almost 2,800.
That's a lot.
And even then, you'll still get 22, 23, 2,400. So think of the liquidity in the marketplace, over $2,000 per, and there's 2,700 out there.
But on top of that, you're talking about a price point of $3,600 to potentially pull one that then has to gem of a player that arguably should not yet be at the price point of a $2,500 Connor McDavid PSA 10. Thus, you're spending 30. If you buy a case, I'm hypothetically, if you buy a case, you might buy one box, and boom, you're good. But to guarantee one, essentially, $3,600 price point.
Yeah, that's the reason why I suggested that
It's crazy.
This is pushed into the category of you're almost forced to be doing it through breakers. The math no longer maths. Like it's you've effectively doubled the price per box. Effectively, you've doubled the price per box.
Do you think breakers? Because I don't watch a lot of the hockey breaks. Do you think they will actually stretch the dollar more? Now, this whole topic was for the distribution and how that product is 300.
Yeah, we'll get back to it, but we're
the-
using this
all of those
example
streams.
since we're familiar with it. Yeah.
Do you think the breakers would then take it a step further and to make it affordable, but also a little bit more piece on the pie for them, do 3-box breaks to where then
Well, I
you're
think,
seeing somebody with the Blackhawks spending a lot and may not even get Bedard.
but the thing is, well, look, I'm not going to get too deep into breaking because obviously it's not my area of expertise. However, if you really want to make it quote unquote fair and you want to increase your potential, look, I joked about the pick your team because the Chicago Blackhawks one would be super high, and I joked about it and said, well, the other teams would be like $5. You won't be able to. But truthfully, if you're a breaker and you really want to be smart about it, you would randomize the teams. You would be like, okay, so take the cost, figure out whatever number you're satisfied with, and be like, all right, so that none of you complain to me. And again, be very transparent, show everything so everybody can see it. I go, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to break it up into 32 pieces, 32 teams. Nobody gets to pick a team. Take your chances. Spin the wheel, and let's find out. One of you is going to get it, and you're all paying the same price. That's the closest way you can do it to fair, and it would keep the relative price. So whoever gets the Chicago Blackhawks spot would get it much cheaper that way, give themselves a better shot at it. But it means a couple of the $5 teams are going to go for the same price point. They're going to pay more, and they're just not going to get the value out of it.
So about 120 a spot, 32 spots, and I did go over the 300 price point because they got costs involved of shipping and all that.
Yeah.
So 120 a spot, 32 spots.
But what if you get Columbus?
Yeah, but to be fair, but at that price point that you're talking about right there, at that price point, you've effectively talked about the same price as buying 5 packs.
Yeah, it does.
Like it's not as obscene. It's not as
affordable.
obscene as you. It feels better paying the $120 and taking your chances. At least you've got a chance, and you get whatever's in the case for whatever team you ended up pulling, as opposed to $300 US or $350 Canadian is one of the pre-sales I saw here. So let's say $300 US just to keep it level set. $300 US. You have no idea what you're going to get. No clue.
Yep.
You're going to get 6 Young Guns. You're guaranteed 6 Young Guns. That's the only thing I can promise you. What they're going to be,
to better your
idea.
odds, you're at best about probably 10% because it'd be 1 in 12 if it's one per case. But let's go 1 in 10 and 10% of hitting the card you want. Man,
it's a tough time.
I think I'll pass. I think I'll pass this year.
I don't look. I'm not sitting here advocating for it. I'm not suggesting it. I'm merely stating that if you're a person who wants to try to do it through a break, a random team is probably your best bet, dollar for dollar, because at least you gave yourself a chance and you didn't have to chase. You didn't have to be first in the spot to hit the team and then pay the highest number. And again, you're still not many guarantees there. You're taking a lot of chances on that one. It's going to be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out. And I'll throw another piece at you. Historically, as I said, the Expo is usually a good spot for this. So if it comes out on time that we expect, the release date here is February the 28th. That means by the time we get to the Expo is late April, early May. So by that point, already some time would have gone by. I would still assume, though, that this would be one of the products that they would have for their pack redemption thing. With pack redemption, you also get the additional bonus packs.
Is SP Authentic normally these spring?
There should be one by then. That would be my expectation. Again, we're going with a normal Upper Deck calendar. I don't know what this year's going to look like. They have gotten a little bit better. They're starting to release some of these products, so that's been good. But we're still, like I said, the cup is still 21-22. We're still behind. So we're still trying to get to present day. We're going backwards and forwards in time. I don't know where we're sitting right now.
What do you think SPA? Well, actually, what do you think? So on the distribution end of it and the topic there, do you think we're going to see this inflated number across all products moving forward because of the Bedard factor?
Oh, we're definitely going to. Every product that has Bedard is getting a boost. Like in this case, so we wanted to, since we knew a lot about Series 1 and Series 2, I wanted to start off with it as the beginning. Like I said, this is merely opening the conversation to other discussions down the road. We'll touch on different elements of it. We'll bring in some folks to chat on some of this piece, but I wanted to start the discussion. We already know just looking at Series 1 and Series 2, the discrepancy. This is the same year, the same product, the same brand between Series 1 and Series 2. And I'll bring this element into it. And we talked a little bit about it in the live stream, but I'll touch on it this way. I can say with good sources that, as always, one of the big long-standing, this is not new, one of the long-standing traditions of the distribution model and its brokenness is the idea of you got to buy this because that if you do not, and they never phrase it, I joked about it being like a mob thing. They don't do it like that, but very politely they allude that if you do not purchase these other items, it may impact your allocation for other products. And in the case of Series 1, even though Series 1 obviously doesn't have Bedard in it, it did have that bonus card. It did have that, Easter egg card. So that still had some desirability. The price of Series 1 is much lower than it's going to be for Series 2. And it did not suddenly double the price for Upper Deck between Series 1 and Series 2. The actual product itself costs probably about the same to make. It didn't change that dramatically. Well, there is a difference. There's very clearly a difference when the pre-orders are so much higher. Now, what some shops have done is they kind of combine Series 1 and Series 2. So they allowed people to pre-order Series 1, but then presumably get a certain allocation of Series 2. I'm just speaking of general shops. I've seen some of them that connect the two. Well, since a lot of folks connect the two, it becomes extremely important to have allocation of Series 2 because of this. But now all of a sudden you're looking at this increased price point. It's become a lot higher. So here's where you run into an interesting thing. I can say that Series 1 sold extremely well. It did extremely well. People were all over it. Series 2, the feeding frenzy should be even higher. But here's the problem. Can your store get enough allocation? So this presumably should be a very profitable product. But the distributors are also charging more for it too. So what happens if, as has been historically the case, allegedly, the distributor does the thing where I've got X allocation for you. Okay, so you bought enough Series 1, you bought enough of these other products. I will make this much Series 2 available to you. This is all I got, quote unquote. And then, we found some more, but this one's at, we start at 300 pre-sale. Pre-sale goes off. You sell X number of cases, however many you got, to breakers, to individuals, to whoever. And then you go, hey guys, I need a restock. I've sold through all my allocation. Well, let's see what we can find. Oh, we found some in the warehouse. We found some cases. Hey, Eric, you found some cases? That's great. Yeah, these ones are 400 US per, or 450. If you would like to restock, they're going to be 450. 450 from the distributor. You're the shop. Yeah. So if you buy them at 450, how much do you have to charge? It's no longer $300. Now it's 500. Even if you want to take a very modest markup, I'm just making up numbers to be clear. But even if you do it that way, that'd only be 50 per box. That's not much of a markup. But even then, you went to $500. So what does the customer say? Hey, you're ripping me off. The pre-sale was $300. I bought them from you. Now you're saying it's $500, and you're sitting there like, yes. It's like, I'm not making as much as you think I am. My margin is actually quite small, all things considered. And if you don't want it, the guy down the street is asking for $550. The guy further down the street is asking for $600. I'm doing the best I can to give you a modest markup. And it's like, well, how can it be worth $500? Well,
because you might get this one card that will, help you get that $500 back. But the chance
the problem we have though is, and this goes back to the cup conversation. The problem is if you increase the price per box high enough, you do not make your money back, even if you pull the card, and that's the problem.
And the real problem isn't the money. It's the feeling one gets with the loss. How can you enjoy doing this if you're continuously getting losses? It takes joy away.
That's been the place I've been struggling with, and it has completely gotten down to the point of just the cost of the products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, me and her used to, we would buy cases and sit down, split a case, she'd open some, I'd open some, and we would have a lot of fun. I don't want to say it was cheap, but it was at a price point that you could enjoy and you didn't feel like you got kicked in the groin repeatedly. the part that it's very hard to struggle now, and I mentioned we opened some Middle Universe, a few months back or whatever.
Mhm.
And the thought there is, okay, we enjoy the product. The cost, the expense is to pay for the enjoyment of opening the product. But when it keeps climbing and it keeps getting more expensive, when you're telling yourself that, you begin to just lie to yourself because you're not having fun. When you walk into that shop, you mentally struggle with even forking over that amount to buy those boxes. Already in your head that you're spending more than you're likely going to get in return, whether fun or monetarily out of the product. And then you sit down, you open it, you might hit, one or two cards that you like, but you look back on it and then you struggle again because you're like, what the hell did I just open? Like it does not it's just like with the cup case that was open, and they're doing that little project seeing how much is actually returned out of it. It's not even about the value. When it soaks that much, it no longer becomes fun. Like
Mhm.
you can tell yourself you're doing it for fun, but it's not fun getting kicked in the groin. And then you eventually stop because you don't want to get kicked in the groin.
Yeah.
That's kind of
So I think
where I'm at.
so the thing, and kind of taking what you're saying, so we'll be 5% more mature. And if you notice, when Eric was saying the thing about losing and still like suffering through it, there was a Boston Bruins joke there, and we did make it. So I'm proud of us. 5% more mature. But in the spirit of what you were saying, though, uh, part of the thing is, and it goes back to the discussion we've had in the live stream, but I'll touch on it again here. A lot of those folks, like myself, I talk about how I enjoy gambling. I like having a little fun with the gamble. The thing about gambling is that if you're doing it responsibly, if you actually understand what the odds are going into it and all that, then it feels sporting. And what I mean by that is, I use the simple analogy. You go to the roulette table, you got all these different options, different odds, depending on what option you select. You got red and black here. It's not 50-50. It's actually worse than 50-50. And if you've got the double greens, then it's actually worse than that. You can actually go look up but here's the thing. You can go look up what the odds are mathematically, and you'll be able to know. You'll know it's worse than 50-50. But here's the point. It's worse than 50-50, so the house will win because you can put this down on the same one over and over again, and in the aggregate, even if you can get on a hot run or a cold run or whatever, in totality, you should lose more than you win. But what's happening right now is that when we're looking at these boxes and these breaks, you're being presented this idea that you're playing the red and black, and you're supposed to be looking at it like it's 50-50. It's not 50-50. It's getting the odds of picking one of the individual numbers, but you're not getting the payout. So even if you hit the really difficult one to hit, you're not getting the payout that you're supposed to be getting if you hit the big one. That's the analogy that we're using here, because at a certain price point, you have to put so much in that even if you score the jackpot in this case, you barely broke even. Maybe you did a little better, or you still lost. So to Brandon's point, it's like that's what getting kicked in the jug feels like. Back in the olden days, you would buy the box, and most of the time you should lose. But what losing meant back then is you get like 50% of the box price back, 60% of the box price. So you lost. But it doesn't feel like, okay, whatever. The box was like $80 and you got $60 worth of value on it. You didn't get destroyed. You didn't get destroyed.
Right.
The most kind of related like 70, I was gonna say, yeah.
Well, I kind of relate it, and I always talk about and I use this analogy a little bit because it's two things that I don't really do much of, and it's more expensive than I really feel it should be. But think about it going to a movie, right? You go to the movie, you don't know what it's going to be. The movie, I don't know, $30 to go watch this movie, whereas you could be patient and just wait at home and either stream it when it's free on HBO or whatever. But you want to go to the movies, and let's just call it $30. Going in, you don't know good movie, sucky movie. All right, if it's sucky movie, whatever, it's $30. $300, are you going to continue going to the movies?
Yep.
Because you don't know if sucky movie is going to be sitting there.
Yeah.
It's
feel the loss
kind of
more.
The same thing.
Yep. You feel the loss more because now you've increased the stakes. That's why I use that analogy. Like I said, we talk about it's like, it's breaking gambling. Of course it is. You've got odds. You've got odds. Of course it's
But
gambling.
it makes it easier to swallow the pill.
Sure. But that's the thing, like at a lower price point, that's why I use those at smaller stakes. If you're buying your box and it's 60, 70, 80 bucks, if you get $40 or $50 worth of value, you've technically still lost. But a $20 or $30 loss is like, okay, well, hey, you got a chance to spin the wheel. You took a chance. You played the game. It didn't work out for you. And if you win, okay, maybe you got a modest win. Oh, that card is like 110 bucks. Okay. On a $70 box, 110 bucks. Hey, I made my money back, or a little bit, whatever. Pays for the next box or whatever the case may be. But today, in the examples that we're using, you're paying $1,000 for a box. So we talked about the hockey one. Look at what Prism Football is going right now. Prism Football is $900 a box, $900 US per box. So, but $900 US, you're going to get a couple of colors in them. Maybe you get a CJ Stroud. A CJ Stroud rookie isn't going to pay you back for that. No way. Even if you get it graded, even if it comes back a 10, that's not enough. You need more. You need a CJ Stroud color. You need a really nice parallel. You need a couple of things to hit just to break even. The CJ Stroud is what you want. CJ Stroud is what you're looking for. It's like the Bedard thing. In this example, at $300 US, you pull the Bedard in the first box you open, you probably made your money back, maybe a little more. At $500 a box, you're probably still behind. So you pulled the card, you beat the odds, and you still lost.
It's all ass backwards now too, because and I'm going to go back in time a little bit prior to, what some of the folks in the hobby were into it now, but just, what are we, 2024 now? So about 5 years ago, in 2019, you could go into a hobby shop, and I'm going to say Blowout, who has high prices and everything today. They're one of the ones like DA, like you showed, and everything. But you could walk into the shop at Blowout. It's about 45 minutes away from me. Go in, ask for a box off the shelf, and in most cases, the product would have been cheaper than the MSRP of the day it was released. And I'm talking, ye old 2019. And I'm not talking crap product with nobody you want in it. I'm talking Prism. And I know this for a fact because me and my wife went up there September of 2019.
Yep.
Prism Basketball bought 2018 Prism, Luka Doncic's rookie year, and it was cheaper than the MSRP at release. And Luka was the hottest young basketball player in the NBA, probably hotter than he is today, and the product was cheaper than MSRP. Today, you have the exact opposite going on. We're seeing the inflated price, and here, the example, Bedard, it's worse than the Jason Robertson pump. That's what it is.
Wow.
It's worse.
That right there, that's a serious accusation. That's crazy talk right there. So just to close off that point, and then, like I said, we'll this will be like part one of a discussion because we could break this up into a couple of pieces. But I'll touch on one more thing using the same example you did. So in 2018, and on the YouTube channel, it's there. Like if you go back historically in the archives, in 2018, I was opening some football product. If you all remember, in 2018, it was Lamar, it was Baker, it was Sam Darnold at the time, it was the Chosen Rosen, Josh Allen, of course. So you had a whole rookie crop. You had a bunch of different rookies. Yep, you had a bunch of, and even Saquon. Saquon was another one. So you had a number of different rookies that people were vying for. So you had a variety of different ones. 2018 Prism Football. I did open a box of 2018 Prism Football on the channel. I didn't pull too much craziness. I pulled a couple of cards for a couple of the guys in there. So it worked out nicely for me. It was okay. But it was 260 Canadian a box. And I did the quick translation over here. That's 194 US. 194. This year's is 900. And that was 6 years.
With way more parallels and crap in it, because in 2018, the silver still had a hell of a lot of value because they
Yeah.
were limited hits and there wasn't 52 different colors and patterns.
Yeah. And I would say if you go back and look at it, I pulled a couple of cards, a couple of nice cards, but my autograph Prism rookie wasn't great. It was like I pulled a couple of Lamar inserts and stuff, and I sold off piecemeal some of the stuff over the years. Well, here's the thing: I made my money off back on the box. To be clear, I made my money back on the box back then, and I didn't really pull anything crazy. I didn't pull any of the premium rookies. I didn't pull an autograph of. I did pull a Josh Allen rookie. It was a 9. It wasn't anything crazy, but I made a little bit of money on that one. I got a couple of Lamar inserts that sold for okay when Lamar got his first MVP. So I actually was able to I was able to go back in the box, dust it off, grab some of the singles inside of it, sell a couple more off over a little bit of time, and I actually made my money back on the box. But that's because I paid $260 for it.
But that's another part that changes the spectrum from then to today. In 2018, 2019, you could buy a box of cards, you could open it, and you didn't have to worry about your wallet screaming at you.
Mhm.
You could put the cards aside, top load them, see if a player pans out, see if he gets more popularity, see if he becomes, better or good, and you didn't have to worry about it. In this instance of speaking on this Upper Deck product, just to use it as the example, because we have the number there, $300. Well, you're going to try to recuperate some of that as quick as possible because not everybody just has 300 that they can spend over and over. And most people in this hobby fund their hobby off of the hobby. You tie up 300 or 900 in the case of Prism, you just tied up a chunk of change. You can't put the cards back in the box and set them aside for a year to go dust off. You've just tied up $900.
Yeah. And we're talking at the individual level. So I think what I'll do is I'll push the conversation for the shop portion of it into a future episode because I want to get Brad or Sherry or some folks that can speak to it a little bit more directly from that portion of it because they don't have to give all the numbers away because obviously they're running a business, but they can also give a little context because they're the ones ordering product and they can give a little bit of context of what that looks like from that perspective. But talking about it from the individual breaking perspective of it, talking about that, looking at these box prices using the pre-order one that we talked about today, I'll put it this way. I joke of the channel. One of my favorite things. I always joke about the AEW Upper Deck and everything. I've already opened an inner case of AEW Allure. They've got Allure in hockey as well, so you're familiar with it from that. But they've got AEW Allure. Allure has a lot of color and a lot of everything. It's not the craziest high-end product, but it's got some nice cards in it. It's got some fun stuff. You can have some fun with it. AEW is not the hottest product in the world. But I made my money back from an inner case of 10 boxes of AEW Allure. Well, here's the thing. That inner case, 10 hobby boxes, 10 hobby boxes, cost me barely more than 2 boxes of Series 2 will cost. In 10 boxes versus 2, which one of us do you think has the better chance of at least pulling something fun that you can put together or having a totality of enough singles to be able to find? I was able to make my money back on an inner case. 2 boxes of Series 2. My chances, if we just go with the odds that we talked about, maybe a Bedard per case, my chances aren't looking good. My chances are not looking good at all. In 10 hobby boxes, I'll probably get some autographs. I'll get parallels. I was able to pull a 1-of-1 in the first one. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I'm more than likely going to get it. I got at least a decent shot at a case hit. Like I've got enough boxes to be able to spread the risk out. And that's 10 boxes worth of me having some fun opening it. So I get the enjoyment factor. I will pull enough cards where I can at least move some of that stuff to the point of what we talked about earlier. Even if I lose, percentage-wise, I'm probably not going to lose as much. But that's because the price point on it was much more palatable over a much greater number of boxes. So I was able to spread my risk. I got more spins of the wheel for a lower price versus 2 hobby boxes where the only thing I'm guaranteed is 12 Young Guns. Do I get the one that I want? I don't know. We'll see.
Does Series 1 and 2 have anything else to offer yearly? I mean, do they have autographs? Do they have, patches and jerseys? Or do they just have
jerseys and patches are gone? Patches are gone.
Right. So they're only in the higher.
Autographs are...
So
I think they've got 1 or 2 autograph subsets, but it's become very hard to pull those.
Right. And so you're getting the inserts, these other inserts that
and parallels.
are not super exciting to collectors anymore.
UD Portraits doesn't excite you?
UD Portraits is just horrible. And so is the Teacher's Pet. It's just horrible.
See, what you need, Eric, the problem is, for Bastion of Positivity, I got to be honest, Brandon, I'm not feeling the Bastion of Positivity-ness coming off of Eric for this one.
I'll
Just not feeling it.
I'll continue to work harder.
Well,
yes, you should.
I mean, they have the clear.
I'll actually show a couple while we're talking about it. I'll just show a couple. So there's
They
your
have the
base,
clear
your
cuts,
young
but
gun.
nobody really care about them for the veterans. It's essentially young guns or bust.
Eric's favorite.
Oh,
We got the portraits on a roll.
Just brutal.
The Dazzlers are
Now,
nice, but they're cheap.
They are, yeah. So you got these deep roots. It says ecliptic. I want to say like eclipse.
It,
so
it
like
just
ecliptic.
says Jason Robertson, I believe.
I believe it says more than that, but yes. So you got that. He got fluorescents and highlighters. Come on, highlighters.
So those, I don't know about that design, but I will say those are also 2 cards that they look really nice, but
They do.
like they don't have any value. They don't have the collector's base for them or the want of them is very slim. They're very nice looking cards though.
Yeah. So real quick, I'll read it since we were talking about here for folks that are listening to audio version. So we're just looking at Series 2 configuration. We're looking at the sell sheet, the spec sheet on it, and just looking at a couple of the inserts. So here's what a box break on average is going to be. So I'll give you the average box break. You're going to get 10 Director of Boards, Ecliptic, Instinctive, and or PCs cards. Some of the inserts we talked about and some other stuff I didn't see on here. 6 Young Gun cards, so box break on average. So 6 Young Guns per box break on average. So every 2 packs or so, give or take. 6 honor roll and or UD portrait cards, Eric's favorites. We got 4 UD canvas cards on average, 3 deep roots, 2 Director of Boards, Ecliptic, Instinctive, and or PC Sparkle Parallel version. Sparkle Parallel, come on. All right, so we got that. 1 base set, clear cut parallel, UD canvas, black and white parallel, or fluorescent red card. 1 outburst parallel, veteran or young gun. 1 monster season or glaring card. 1 blue dazzler card and 1 wild card, which can include all rare ratio to numbered cards. That is what you are guaranteed per box on average. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this portion of the conversation because I've done this before. But from a value perspective, I'll just put it this way. When you've got so many, it goes back to a discussion we have had on the live stream for sure. If you've got so many, it's nice when someone is opening packs to feel like you don't have too many packs that are just all base. The problem is this works best for breakers, really, because then it makes people feel like they're getting something out of it. But the problem is when you stuff it with enough inserts, the inserts become glorified base, unless they happen to be the right ones. If you pull the good one, then all right, everybody's excited. But when you're pulling an insert in every single pack, then it's not nearly as exciting because you're going to get an insert. Well, there are so many inserts available in abundance that it's like, okay, if you're collecting that team or that player, well, then wonderful for you. It gives you something to chase after, but there's one in virtually every pack. There's only 12 packs. I talked about how many you're getting. It's like, add it all up. You're getting 6 Young Guns, you're getting 10 of these, 4 of these, 3 of these, 2 of these. There's only 12 packs in the box. So mathematically, you're probably getting a couple of, you could probably get a Young Gun and one of these inserts in a pack. That probably might happen a couple of times. Well, there you go. How special is the pack then? So you got the Young Gun and you got an insert. How excited are you? I guarantee if you get a Connor Bedard outburst parallel, one of the nice ones or one of the numbered ones, hey, that's going to be a big hit. That's a good one. But most people won't. And they won't get a base one either.
No.
Most people won't.
No.
So you're going to be on the outside looking in and you pay $300 for every spin of that wheel. That's a very expensive wheel to spin.
I would hold that money and just wait for other people to do the dirty work and then buy it from them, but at maybe a little bit more. But you're getting what you paid for. It takes the gamble out, and maybe you have to pay a little bit more, but you didn't waste any money. It's all going to the thing that you want. And
thinking about it, this sounds crazy, but and I could be way off if the hype goes through the roof, and who the hell knows what the prices will be. Instead of spending the money to buy a case, you could probably save the money and buy the Future Watch. And then you have a numbered autograph, on-card autograph.
No, I agree. But that's why I said historically, I gave those the hockey world has 3. And that isn't to say there aren't more. Of course there are more. But there are 3 that most people look at as the pillars on the hockey hobby. The Young Gun is one, but there are going to be plenty out there. We just talked about that. There are going to be plenty. If you're willing to wait past release and people opening boxes and things, give the market a chance to cycle through them a little bit. You can probably get your hands on one. You can go to a card show, especially if you're in Canada. You can go to a card show and you're going to have plenty of chances to pick one up at a table. They're going to be out there. Number 2, your Future Watch auto. And number 3, your Cup card. We don't know when the Cup card is going to come out. So your Future Watch is going to be your next pillar, staple, kind of traditional rookie card that people do chase after. And there are 999. So, and it's a decent quantity. It's at least numbered. There is a little bit of a cap. It's not an infinite number or a seemingly infinite number, and it's also an autograph, to your point. So if you're going to chase, and you'd probably be able, you'd save money. Instead of buying a case, you could probably just buy 1 or 2 of those and probably hang on to it. Would probably be a better return on your investment.
Right. That's to have. I was sitting here thinking about it, and I was like, $3,600. I mean, I don't know what it would be, but realistically, I would think it would be under $3,600 for his damn Future Watch.
If nothing else, you'd put a pretty good chunk into it. If nothing else, you'd put a pretty good chunk into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'll leave one more thought here, kind of, because we didn't get a chance to touch on it as much, and I don't want the episode to go too long. But we'll touch on it again the next time we have a chance to discuss this with either a card shop owner or someone who can give a little bit more information into this side of it. Before we started recording, we talked about the whole Upper Deck certified diamond dealer. So we talk about the distribution side. We talk about that a lot because they're a middleman in between. Manufacturer, distributor, card shop, end user. Oftentimes. Sometimes there's more, but generally speaking, here's your cycle. You can be a certified diamond dealer with Upper Deck as an example. Obviously, Fanatics has got its own thing going on, but this is one of the key pieces. Generally speaking, you don't get as much product if you're a certified diamond dealer, but you might. But one of the things that has been historical, and if it changes, we can talk about it, that's fine. But one of the key pieces is that you had requirements. You had to have a brick and mortar storefront retail location, which is fair. That's fine. That's one of their requirements. That's okay. You cannot sell sealed hobby products online for the first 180 days of release. And there are additional stipulations on top of that. So you think, it goes back to what I said earlier, and I don't want you to feel bad for card shops because at the end of the day, as the end consumer, you don't need to care. But I'm simply pointing out this is part of the ecosystem that's broken. So let's say you become a certified diamond dealer. So you can actually get the product directly from Upper Deck without the distributor middleman. This is awesome. How much allocation do you actually get? Not necessarily as much as you want, but you got a stipulation. You can't sell it online for the first 180 days. In other words, when the product is hot and it just arrived and people want to buy it, if they want to buy it online from you, you're not supposed to sell it to them. You're not supposed to give an online price. There are rules. And if you violate those rules, then you get cut off. Or you can go with the distributor who may have more allocation for you, but you may be at the mercy of restocks, and you may be at the mercy of, hey, you want that allocation that you got last year? You're also going to have to buy this. But I can't sell that. You're going to have to buy it. It would be unfortunate if your allocation got cut. Really unfortunate. That's a broken system. It's a very broken system. And unfortunately, it's not new. It didn't get developed in the boom period. This was going on decades. And there's a reason it's a very cash heavy business to try to be a card shop. And I feel bad for the folks that started card shops during the boom period who are now discovering what it's like when you cannot move the product fast and you're sitting on it and you had to put this cash out and there's more product coming and there's another cycle of products that are going to be coming soon and you need more cash for that. How do you intend to make that happen when this product is gathering dust on the shelf? That's going to be a credit cash liquidity crunch that is going to knock out a lot of these card shops in the next couple of months to next couple of year or two. That's going to affect the rest of the ecosystem all the way through, all the way down the chain. And when Fanatics does their piece, and we'll talk more about it down the road, but just because Fanatics is operating as their own distributor doesn't mean they can't mark up the price on the boxes too. That means your margin is still small. Doesn't change anything. It's just now, we got rid of the old boss. Welcome the new boss, same as the old boss, just with a different, coat of paint.
Something to throw in, and I know this is towards the end, so I don't even know how many people will hang around and listen to this, but you mentioned Fanatics. Something to throw out there that I experienced just this week, and I'm waiting to get a follow-up call. But just to give a heads up to everybody, if you have a redemption, be very, very cautious with redeeming it with Topps/Fanatics, because I called to check back in on the 4 that I have that are outstanding this week because I hadn't heard anything. The last time I checked was in August. They told me they were going to fulfill my substitutions. I still haven't had anything. I was offered $50 in store credit to appease my substitution requests because it had been so long. I kind of laughed at the woman and told her it wasn't her fault, but yeah, $50 was kind of a slap in the face. I asked to speak with a supervisor who she said she couldn't, that she would have email. A lady did actually call me, who was up higher up in the chain, and she is investigating to see what they can do because she realized what their website said isn't what they're offering. But just be very careful out there because they're offering $50 store credit for redemption substitutions. So
I think we should have a whole episode on redemptions because I could talk about it for hours.
Perhaps we'll.
yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely going to touch on some of these topics for sure. And if there's something like that you'd like us to touch on, then we'll also, especially if it's something related to some of the ones where we can reach out to some folks, we'll try to do that because we also want to get their angle on it as well, because it's only fair to let them add their additional piece. We can offer our opinions. So like everything that I talked about here tonight, a lot of it is from talking to folks who have had the chance to experience it from different levels. I talked about that diamond dealer thing. That's still on their website. Now, if somebody wants to say, oh, that's changed, no problem. That's fine. Let me know. But that's still on their website right now. It's upperdeckstore.com, become a certified diamond dealer. When I look at it, that's where I'm getting it from. That's where I'm getting it from today. So I'll leave a link to that in the description for you. If they change the verbiage or change the conditions, they only give a handful of stipulations here. That may change as time goes on. I'm sure it will if they get enough feedback about it. But that's the way it's been. If you wanted to get access to direct product, it was for the longest time very difficult to get the direct account from the manufacturer. That started drying up years ago, and then it became the distribution model. Now Fanatics wants to kind of move away from the distribution model and take control of it for themselves. Understandable. But that means that now you have no one in between to blame. Now, whatever price you get it for, that's going to be Fanatics themselves doing it. And they're going to offer it to you whatever price. This is your allocation. This is the cost. You want it? Here it is. And that doesn't mean they can't do the exact same thing and say, well, you got to buy this other stuff too.
They're kind of showing their hand. Look at what just dropped. Bowman Sapphire. What was that? $349, $379, something like that. A box direct to consumer.
Yep.
Sapphire was cheap not long ago. It was a product that they couldn't even sell out. And now they're asking nearly $400 for a box the size of a mega box. So
that'll be the other piece of the puzzle. Going the direct to consumer model doesn't mean they have to lower the box price. It just means, or if they do, it just means they got a bigger piece of the cut and then completely cut out the LCSs. But it still means that like the price you're paying is still going to be effectively the same or more, depending on the product. It'll be an interesting time. There's a lot of things going forward ahead here. We're going to see how that plays out. But like I said, I think the brokenness of it is going to become a more pronounced problem because of the lack of liquidity with the market slowing down. When things were flying off the shelf, it was a little easier to play this game and just cross your fingers and take the risk. But as soon as that wheel stopped moving and the momentum was gone and now it just grinded to a halt, all of a sudden now you're sitting on all this product you still have to buy. You can't get rid of it. What do? Do you blow it out? Do you fire sale it? But if you did, you lost money on this, and now you got to buy more product where you're going to lose money on that product too, waiting for the product where you do make some money. And how much you're actually going to get, is it enough to offset all those products you had to buy at a loss and we're barely able to get rid of? That's not a sustainable long-term business model. Bringing it into 540 flips here as we wind out, So if Brandon went and sourced and he was buying something at $100 all day long that he can get $80 for on eBay, how long does he stay in business? Well, if you keep doing that, eventually you'll pay $100 to get something that gets 200. Yeah, but how many few of those were you getting for all those ones where you bought at 100 and sold at 80? This is bad math. The math doesn't math. You can't be doing this for very long, or else you run out of money.
Yep.
Can't do it. Yeah. Well, unless you're sitting on Eric like button money, which is then you can do whatever you like. Just buy all the cases. All the cases.
I think that's why the price went up. He was like ordering them. They were like, did that really say 200? They were like, the price has got to go up. We're running short.
Buy it now. I see what's going on. Some late night shopping there from Eric. I get it.
Buy it now.
Big
baller.
And on that bombshell, we'll wind her down on this episode. We do have more to say about this, but we can spread it out into a couple of episodes and bring on, like I said, some other folks to add some additional information on that topic, but we'll talk about that. So first, Eric Sanderson DeOr, you can check him out on Instagram. He will be the bastion of positivity for you in the year 2024. I look forward to that. Also, we got Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards, and 540 Flips, the fastest growing episodic flipping channel run by a guy named Brandon. Ha! Totally correct. You make it niche enough, it's true. Go ahead. Name me one run by a guy named Brandon that is growing faster. Name me one. That's what I thought. 540 Flips on YouTube if you want to check that out. Bobbles and Ball Cards for the sports card side of it. And we're back on future episodes, hopefully. The Brett Favre shall smile upon us, and maybe we'll have some fun round 2 matchups. So you got all our picks for round 1. We're back for round 2 and see what the NFL narrative, the #rigged, what the league gives us as far as the script is concerned for round 2. We'll see. That'll be very exciting. So we're back on that. Like if you like the video, if you're checking out on the YouTube, if you could do that, that'd be great. Comments are appreciated and welcome because they give us some additional information on what you like to see. If you got some things you'd like us to talk about, we can definitely look into that. And otherwise, more videos coming up on the channel. Live streams on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we are at least 5% less mature than we are in this venue. That's it for us. We'll catch you in the next one.